Our journey begins in Middle America around the early 1800s. Our hero is a voracious supernatural hunter currently recovering from a mauling of vicious werewolves. Sitting inside his own very illustrious state-of-the-art steam-driven locomotive, our hero receives a summons from the American Association of Supernatural Hunters, or ASH for short. They order him to head to the Devil's Tower immediately, located in Wyoming. Barely recovered from his last fallout with the supernatural, our hero wastes no time and plots a course for the Devil's Tower immediately. He gently hops in his custom-built horse-drawn wagon and exits the train. He rides down to an old, worn-down mining town that seems to be like it's been dormant for decades. A quick look around tells him that neither the people occupying the town nor the aboriginals quietly watching from beyond the hills are going to be of any help with this unknown supernatural presence he has been hired to deal with here. Beginning his investigation, he heads straight for the Devil's Tower, located right inside the town's backyard. The tower is a large mountain in the middle of nowhere, reaching almost 900 feet into the sky. Approaching the base of the massive mountain, our hero experiences a shift in the air as he moves through an unseen barrier, as if passing through water. The terrain becomes almost too rocky to maneuver from inside his wagon. He reaches down and presses a large wooden button built into a small console in front of him. The whole wagon begins to shake with everything inside as a green supernatural electricity rages throughout it. The cart grows twice its original size, now easily able to traverse the rocky terrain. A shadowy puppet figure reveals itself behind a grouping of rocks as it begins to scurry up them. Our hero grabs a shotgun filled with rock salt and fires it at the shadowy figure, blowing apart its shoulder into scraps and sticks. A small boulder is flung through the air, crashing down into the right side of the wagon and smashing our hero's hand in the door and the console between them. "So that's how it's going to be, eh?" A witch-like voice shrieks throughout the canyon as the puppet figure disappears into the rock. Seeing as there's no other way to scale this small mountain, our hero reaches over and activates the grow button in the wagon to match the mountain's size. Within a minute, he can peer from the top of the wagon just over the Devil's Tower. Timing his movement and activation of the shrink button perfectly, he launches the wagon towards the middle of the peak on top of the mountain. Our hero is shrinking and falling. He starts to make out the cave entrance at the top of the spire. He reaches to deactivate the shrink button and lands safely, but alas, the shrink button has become stiff and stuck. With gravity slowing and the mouth of the cave opening larger and larger, our hero spots an enormous ant charging like a dragon and screeching its way up to the wagon. He smashes the glowing console repeatedly and manages to reverse the shrinking and get it to grow back to normal size moments before being eaten by the giant creature. Shaken by the recent events, our hero decides to return to the village and ask for any information regarding the strange mountain. He turns the wagon around and leaps it off the spire he sits atop. Shrinking his wagon to reduce the fall, he lands safely and rides on into the town. The town is silent and smells of old misery. With no one on the streets or visible at all, he exits the wagon and enters what looks like a tavern. Inside the tavern, our hero is greeted by broken chairs, dusty cobwebs, and a lifeless-looking man on the floor. Our hero confesses loudly that he's here for food and a bed while showering the man on the floor with a few gold pieces. The man laying down springs to life, quickly collecting the coins off the floor and drunkenly pleading the eloquence of his tavern. He fixes a bowl of questionable stew and a room with a bed upstairs. Our hero quickly eats the stew and heads up to rest for the night. In the middle of the night, he awakes to a ghostly shadow figure standing at the foot of his bed. "We will assist you up the mountain, but we cannot follow you in. Meet us at the base tomorrow morning. We are waiting." The shadow figure moans as it falls into the darkness. As the sun rises next morning, our hero springs out of bed into his wagon and heads straight for the base of the mountain. 100 feet from the base, he notices a group of aboriginals following his ascent. Fearing what they will do when they catch him, he quickly places a rock-salt mine on the ground behind him as he continues on and sets an ambush. A few more steps and the mine explodes in the middle of them, blowing off one of their legs. Our hero quickly fires a harpoon attached to rope attached to the wagon. The harpoon plunges straight through an aboriginal's crotch, grabbing a hold of him and pulling him directly into the wagon. The group begins laughing hysterically as their friend is dragged into it. "Okay, warrior, enough games. We will take you up the mountain," one of the natives yells. At the base of the Devil's Tower, they show him a rope and pulley system attached to the rocks reaching all the way up the mountain. They strap some ropes around his wagon and hoist him up the entire 900 feet to the top. Arriving at the peak, the horse pulls the wagon off the hooks and onto flat ground. The mouth of the cave stands open once again, directly in front of him. He shrinks the carriage down to a size that will fit the cave opening and ventures in. Two bodies laying in the open spring to life as he passes them into the cave. Before they attack, he sprays them with oil and sets them aflame. Continuing in, the cave opens up into a vast dark room with some kind of altar in the center. Upon approaching, there is a woman tied up on the altar and a cowboy looming over her raising a silver dagger. Behind the man floats a semi-corporeal ghost that seems to be in some way controlling the man. Our hero sprays oil all over the couple and the ghost, interrupting the party for a second. The ghost rages as he notices what's going on, and the two exchange blows. The ghost chucks multiple soul spears as our hero bombards it with rock salt and silver bullets. He notices the ritual before him starting to fail as a solid blow lands into the ghost and freezes it in space. As the ghost is trying to cling onto this realm, our hero dives into the woman, knocking her off the altar and interrupting the ritual. The ghost explodes with screams and flails from this world as the cowboy drops the dagger and grabs a hold of his love, helping her out of her restraints.